Yuck.
Hello and welcome back to the Replimat, a regular chatcast in which two nerds go through the entirety of Star Trek Deep Space Nine in order, and more relevantly today, we go through the whole entirety of Doctor Who in order, oftentimes commenting on the episodes, but if they don't exist, we'll post a review. But today we have episodes that actually exist, which means we can pass comment on them. So that would be cool. Now, the nerds in question, in case you're wondering, are me, Andy, and over there we have...
Me, Tim. Hello.
Hello, Tim. So today we do have, we are on to episodes 21 to 23 of Doctor Who, which just happened to be the first three episodes of what's known as the Keys of Marinus, which would be episode 1, The Seeds of Death, episode 2, The Velvet Web, and episode 3, The Screaming Jungle. Are you all set for this, Tim?
I am, Andy. I am. Yes.
You are. Excellent.
I am very much
We have
so.
a really good sound today. Okay,
Yes.
cool. Right, so we'll start with episode 1, which was first transmitted on the 11th of April 1964. So, we'll see how close we get to the run. Gosh, indeed.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do, viewer, is if you have the DVD, we shall start on 3. If you're watching this via iPlayer, because of the whole delay time, you guys press play on 5. So I'll count to 3, but in your head go 4, 5. And hopefully it'll sync up nicely. So DVD player users, click on 3. iPlayer users, click on 5 in your head. Well, you can count. You can say out loud because we can't hear you. Tim might even just go 4, 5. Actually, Tim, you go 4, 5. Yeah,
I'll go 4, 5. Yes.
When I go 3, you go 4, 5.
And I'll try to coordinate
so you go
my
5 with Tim if you're on iPlayer.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Coordination begins now. On 1, 2, 3,
4, 5.
Right. Hopefully this has worked.
Let's hope so.
Or as near as damn it. Woo. So our TARDIS team have just left China, I believe.
They have a cafe.
Oh, that's right. Remember last week I was wondering, do they still have the same clothes? Cafe, I do apologise. Not Cateys, as it's called in Wales, because there's a place called Cateys, so it's spelled the same way. Because remember last week we were talking about the end of the Marco Polo, whether or not they still have their Chinese stuff at the beginning of this one. For is there a gap? Because there was no cliffhanger, was there? So we will now see, is there actually a gap? I'm saying no. And no materialization noise either.
Nice little model shot. There we are, and they do. Well, Ian's got his gown on. This it's the first returning writer, of course, Terry Nation.
So either he wears it. Yes, it was by Terry Nation, first non-Dalek that he's writes, and will be the last non-Dalek. So he's going to write for a very long time.
Yes. He must have been very, very busy. He must have been focused entirely on Doctor Who at that sort of latter half of 63, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, I imagine this would have recorded a good month or so.
Yeah. And I've not watched this story in quite a while, actually. It's a good few years. We're not talking sort of 20 years or something like that, but I don't know that I've watched it in the last sort of 5 or 6 years. So, and I came to this story quite late as well, because it wasn't. It was quite a late one out on VHS. I remember, or certainly it was after the 96 rebrand, 97 rebrand. I remember that much, and and it wasn't shown on UK Gold for ages either, because originally they couldn't get the rights to show the Terry Nation stories. They couldn't agree. They couldn't agree to show them on UK Gold. So they weren't shown for ages, and then suddenly all of them got shown. So we had the Daleks, we had Keys of Marinus, Dalek Invasion of Earth, etc., and then through to the Android Invasion. So yeah, I didn't actually come to this story until sometime well into the 90s. So.
Well, I wouldn't have watched this until it came on VHS. That would be the first time I would have watched this one. I was, of course, familiar with the story from the novelization, of which we'll talk more next week. Or not next week, next time.
Next time.
But the first time I would have watched it was on VHS, definitely.
Yeah.
And I remember I saw this a little while back, in the last couple of years, certainly. And yeah, I've always enjoyed it. I always think this is a decent story. I like, at this point, that, as we will see, each story is a different location. Each episode is a different location. And it works here in a way that it fails to work, I think, in certain later stories that try as well. Maybe it's because it's the first time. So the novelty works in its favour.
Possibly. I mean, to a certain extent, it picks up from Marco Polo on that, doesn't it? Because Marco Polo was kind of doing that sort of thing.
Yes.
I mean, this takes it kind of to more of an extreme, and you get the sense very much that Terry Nation is pushing the boundaries of the format already. He's wanting to push the series on, see what it can achieve, and sometimes with not always the best results. But he's definitely you can see him kind of edging towards that the sort of more American style adventure story series that he ended up doing towards the late 60s. Ooh, a black gloved hand.
I'm just
trying to remove the TARDIS. That's going to become. I was going to say that's going to become important in about 8 weeks' time. No, 10 weeks' time. About 10 weeks' time.
Oh, sensorized.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and indeed, it happens again in other stories, I believe. I'm sure. I feel sure. Or maybe I'm thinking that would be a cat knocking a bowl.
I was going to say, yeah. Cat or intruder.
I don't think the viewer won't be able
to help themselves to a cup of tea.
The viewers won't be able to hear it. Maybe. The viewers won't be able to hear it because the background sound will be gone. But yeah, I just heard that. Or we just heard that. Yes. See, what's interesting?
I can't think of another incident where the TARDIS lock got removed. So, but
that's what I'm thinking. I'm sure there's something else, but I might be thinking of like a big finish.
Doesn't the monk do something? The Doctor has to use his ring to reset the lock in Dalek Master Plan. Yeah,
I think you might.
I think that's what it is.
That's going to be a fun one to do. That's going to be a fun one to do because that's going to be one of the ones that, unless they animate it by the time we get to it, we'll have to decide what to do because they've got a few episodes we could watch, and then reviews around it maybe.
Yeah,
that'll be fun. Have to decide what to do one way or the other. Maybe we'll watch the existing episodes one week, and the next week we'll just do our review of it. I don't know.
I think we'll work it out. That'll be fun.
We've got a while to go on that one. So there's a couple of episodes like that where there's a few episodes but nothing whole. But that's the most extreme example. Fortunately. Fortunately, Trial of a Time Lord exists in its full, so that's lucky.
Yes. Hooray. We got this is nasty, isn't it? This bit with the Vord, with the Vord suit. And they realise the acid has got in and basically dissolved the body inside. That's really rather unpleasant.
Which proves, despite what other media stories would imply, the Ford don't look like this. These are literally suits. I mean, this entire scene is all about. This is literally a rubber suit. It is exactly what it looks like.
A humanoid in a gimp suit sort of thing. I mean, we've just had the kind of full frontal of the Ford, so they're obviously not. They're not trying the same trick again that they tried with the Daleks and holding them off the big reveal until the end of episode 1. So probably because there's a worry that they don't have the same impact, which is a relief because they don't.
No, have we had the whole fumble about the shoe yet? I think we've missed it.
Yeah, we had the fumble with the shoe and the acid.
And the Doctor getting the pronouns completely back to front when he tries to go on about it. Unless this is it. Talking about his and her shoes, but he gets it all back to front. What released? No, I like the. Must have missed it.
Yeah, we must have done. I like the Marinus set, the kind of all the kind of pyramid type things. Oh, brilliant! I love it. That's great. The whole look of it is great. It's a shame again though that the TARDIS crew tend to have quite a small area in which they can perform. Either that or the cameras are restricted into what angles they can get at. So you've got it all going on in a very small area.
I think 2 points. One, we're just talking about how the different locations bit coming up, and I just mentioned how I actually think it works really well. But of course, as we know from our review for Marco Polo 2 weeks back, the constant change in locations really, for me, worked against it as an audio story, which now makes me wonder, thinking of this one, unless my view changed in the next 2 weeks, which could happen. I do wonder once again if Marco Polo existed, or even if it's animated eventually, if that will make a huge difference.
Maybe.
My appreciation of it, because I think it works here. So there's no reason why it shouldn't work in Marco Polo. Maybe the lack of visualization really worked against it. My second point was, to your point you made actually last week again, or 2 weeks ago, how with Marco Polo, and again, I think because you can see it, it's noticeable how different tonally and narratively things feel now compared to the first 13 batch or block, whatever.
Totally. It's almost a different series.
Now you can see it. You can totally see it.
It's the same series, but also very, very different.
Already, yeah.
Yeah, it's settled. Cozy's not quite the right word, but it does sum it up. It has a coziness or a comfort now that it didn't have.
Well, yeah, and there's because I think in the first 13 episodes, the emphasis was always on how much Ian and Barbara didn't want to be there. Barbara in particular, that was the ongoing thread literally throughout episode 1 right through to episode 20. Whereas now, that's episode 20, episode 13, sorry. Whereas episode 14 onwards, Marco Polo, up to where we are now, although it was there at the beginning of Marco Polo, a little bit with Barbara, there's nothing really here about it. Not really. She's not saying that she's got used to it or she's like, fine, but I suppose maybe there is a sense of now
accepted the situation, haven't they?
Yeah. Where they're just embracing it a bit more. And you can feel, they just feel like they're on an adventure now. I don't know, is that a good thing though? Or maybe after 13 plus weeks, they thought, okay, they have to get used to it. Hey, 13 plus weeks for us. For them, as we've counted, it's been a week and a bit, maybe 2 weeks tops now with all that travelling. And actually, we were out travelling.
There was a lot of travelling in Marco Polo. They must have been gone for, I think, probably over 2 weeks now.
Yeah, I'm going to say based on, because there would have been a whole lot of traveling in between episodes, so I'm guessing we're probably near on a good 3 week thing here, at least, maybe. It's hard, because I remember when Russell first come back with Doctor Who, he made a point of putting down day 1, day 2, day 3 on the scripts all the way through, so we always knew how long it had been for Rose.
Yeah.
And we could have done, well, we were doing that more or less until Marco Polo and all that travel in between episodes, and suddenly it's like, well, I don't know what day now.
Yeah, you kind of lose track of it a bit during Marco Polo. So
again, maybe it's easy. It will be easier once you've got a visual thing to lock on, because obviously these aren't made to be audio stories, so they've got lots of visual cues that we just obviously couldn't see. It's a shame, but
there's
a
very simple storytelling technique playing out here, which is great. The way they split everyone up one by one, and then bring them back together again.
Yeah.
So you've there's been incident and some little character moments. You've not necessarily moved the story on particularly, but you've engaged the audience, and and there's been action. So
look at that, brilliant! It's so all crap.
Oh, it looks terrible, but it's great.
It's inventive. I think that's always been Doctor Who's strength, hasn't it? Less so now, I suppose, because now they've got all this technology. But for the initial run of 26 years, it was always a case of, can we do this? Probably not. Let's do it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they
Should
always
we do it? Probably not. But let's do it.
Never Planet coming up, of course, will be the ultimate of that in the 60s. It's like,
yes,
really? Are we going to do this? Yeah, fuck it, let's do it. Okay, cool.
I love the Web Planet.
I love the Web Planet too. I know it's often got a bad rep on some people, but I remember the first time I watched that again on VHS, I was like, wow.
Yeah, me too.
And the whole, I don't want to say Vaseline on the lens, but whatever it is that they put on the lens, maybe it was Vaseline, whatever it was upon the lens, that gave that really eerie. And it,
I think it was. I think they didn't. I don't think they covered the lens. I think they covered a glass sheet and put film through the. Yeah. Because otherwise you can't get it all off again. But
I suppose that makes sense. But we'll get to that.
We just had George Coulouris, of course, on screen as is it Arbitan, the old boy. He's the
keeper of the key.
He's like the first. Is he the first name? I think he's possibly the first name to appear.
Really?
Or was considered a name at the time. He'd been a not a film star as it were, but he was a stalwart of like British film and theatre for years. It was probably in DWM. I read it. He had a clause in his contract that he only did close-ups and mid shots. Any long shots, he had a body double. So, lazy old bugger. I don't want to be seen walking. I don't want to be seen in the distance walking around. I only want my audience to see me up close.
Well, they can walk around. If they can't see me, it could be any old.
So it could be any old bugger with a cowl can be in the background.
Love it. What a clause. Fantastic.
Oh, there's a board taking a dump in the corner. Yeah. It's not very nice.
I wonder where and how. And there may be books that explain this somewhere. How, when, why, where? This idea that they are these creatures and not in suits. I mean, where did that come? I wonder if that's taken out of the novelization, so that line's been removed, or that scene's been removed, so people had forgotten.
Maybe I had the novelization years ago. I don't remember anything particularly about it, but I also wonder if it comes from the DWM comic strip, the Shapeshifters,
the World Shifters,
the World Shapers. The World Shapers.
We had the words, we just didn't have them in the right order.
Didn't have them in the right order. When the Vord evolved into the Cybermen, I remember thinking, wow, that's great. And I wasn't a huge reader of the comic strip at all, but I very distinctly remember that.
I never read that, but I knew of it like later down the road. But yeah, that certainly made the Vord actually what they were.
Vord is the
what
word.
They're perceived to be, anyway. where, but I do wonder if, and again, we'll come to this when we talk about it in the next section of this, the next video of this rather, when we talk about the novelization. I wonder if that was taken out, and that might have perpetuated this myth. We'll see when we get to it, because we'll have consumed the audio in the next 2 weeks, or you would have consumed the.
I will have consumed it again. Yes.
Yeah.
Either for the fact I can't remember when I read it years ago, but yeah.
God, I wouldn't have read it since 90s.
I was going to say
possibly
it'd be
late 80s,
late 80s, early 90s for me, if at all. So
I very rarely reread the novelizations. To be fair, I remember liking them. On the shelf they went. Maybe a couple of them I reread. Like
I have a few favourites that I read over and over again. Mainly Tom Baker ones, but there was some that I read over and over.
Reread stuff like the Five Doctors and that, and Fenric, because those were written as actual novels for, not for the first time in Doctor Who books, but certainly prominently they were. If the latter half of the 90s where just everything, I mean, even the earlier ones were written better than, But again, we'll get to those soon.
Arbitan's not taking no for an answer, is he?
I love how Susan then
set up a force field around the TARDIS.
Susan went around with a force field like this. Yeah, there's a force field. Then she stops and turns like this, where she's literally just stepped into the so-called force field that she was just miming. As she just turned to look at him, she literally stepped up left side inside that space that she was just apparently blocking off.
Blocked off, yeah.
Sorry. Unless I just missaw that, but I'm pretty sure I didn't.
That's the problem with invisible force fields.
Yes, you can't see if you step inside it. Choice? What choice? It's a good scenario to create an episodic story with, where literally we all separate, which is what's about to happen.
Yeah.
So that we can everybody can have a break, which is nice, and we all come together towards the end, and we can have different separate stories. That's just, kind of key to time, almost, but in a short form.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, and so it shares the narrative, the weight of the narrative amongst all four of them much more evenly. That way, then they're not just you haven't got that situation of everybody just following on after the Doctor all the time and stuff.
And obviously, behind the scenes gives them a chance to all have a week off, because they've been doing this now for a good 3 or 4 months straight, I imagine.
Yeah, I don't know. There were some episodes of Marco Polo where, like, the Doctor only appeared very briefly, and I wondered if maybe he's had a week off there and they just pre-filmed some stuff. But
I'm not sure. I know they do that in Time Meddler with Ian. Is it? They do some pre-filmed with Ian, I think, in Time Meddler.
Episode 2 of the Time Meddler, Hartnell's not in.
Yeah, you just hear his voice briefly, which is a pre-recorded voice bit. But I think before Ian disappears,
the Aztecs,
Romans. That might be the Romans.
Yeah, Caroline Ford has a week off, or at least in the Aztecs, possibly 2.
And of course, Barbara infamously has a week off. Jacqueline Hill has a week off in Centerites and goes
a couple of weeks, I think.
Yeah, she comes back.
She has a couple of weeks
off. Tan. She obviously she was on the ship right by the window enjoying the sun.
Exactly, and she's just not in episodes 4 and 5, I think. So
yeah, everybody else like, where's Barbara? Oh, she's up on the ship, just getting a bit of a tan. Down soon. Oh, okay.
It's difficult. I have to say, it's difficult to put your hand on the front. He just stabbed you on the back, you idiot. It's difficult to like Arbitan, because he's just forced them to go, to risk life and limb, to help him. So I suppose maybe later on in the series, they might have been more willing to help out. This time they're like, no, sorry.
At least if he was a nicer guy, yeah.
And
actually, mistaken. we were mistaken. They don't get separated yet because they're off on their own.
No, but I think during this one they split into two parties. I think at this in this episode.
But, at the end of the next episode, the Doctor I think jumps ahead or some such nonsense to keep them on. But, well, that was a good first episode, actually. I think
it was.
I don't think we watched much of it, but it was a good first episode.
No, I had half an eye on it, so it was half an eye. Half an eye on it. It was the is the director? Yeah, John Gorrie. I thought it was John Gorrie because I said I was watching later stuff of his recently. So, so that was the Sea of Death, episode 1 of Keys of Marinus. A pretty solid episode, I thought, overall. I noticed we are on our. We've only had 4 writers on the series so far, but we're on our 6th director already, because we've had Frank Cox in for one episode, and we had John Crockett, was it, for one episode of Marco Polo as well. So, and now we've got John Gorrie. So yeah, a good solid introductory episode. Plenty for each of the regulars to do. Some mystery set up, and also interestingly, even though we've got obviously there's the threat from the Void, and you've got the whole situation with Arbitan, sort of being put upon, but it's not presented as a purely black and white situation, so it's not all good or evil. You've got that situation with Arbitan basically strong arming the TARDIS crew into helping him out. So it's interesting way these characters are being presented. So we don't. It's not. It's shades of grey, which is good. It's always good to present characters in shades of grey rather than just purely black and white. So yeah, I'm interested to see where the rest of the story goes. How about you, Andy? What did you think of that episode?
Well, I think it's interesting because I heard what you said about 6th director on 5 serial, so that's not interesting. I think as a first episode, I think it's good. The premise is set up very well. The mystery is quite good. I think it's quite clever what they're doing. Is you set up this whole thing with the Sea of Acid, which is kind of irrelevant really to the whole story. But an interesting setup. Fills 25 minutes. And the whole thing with Arbitan, that's interesting. And the whole idea of the keys, and he's sent his daughter and she's gone missing and all this stuff. So all the main stuff is set up. I think it does a really good job of all that.
It's typical Terry Nation, isn't it? Because he piles it on. So we've got the Sea of Acid, almost for no other reason than that it's an additional threat. It's an additional it's an additional obstruction. Forward, So it's
definitely.
It's just adding on the instant. It's it's like when the Daleks invade somewhere, they kicked everyone until they're down, and then just on top of everything else, they give you a plague. It's like, do we need that? Probably not. But it's very Terry Nation. We'll just pile it all on.
Pile it all on. Okay, cool. Right. So, shall we do episode 2?
Yes. The Velvet Web, this one's called.
So episode 2 is The Velvet Jungle, which was first transmitted on the 18th of April 1964. So, back again on DVD people
Web,
on 3.
Velvet Jungle.
iPlayer people on... Did I say Velvet Jungle?
You said Velvet Jungle.
You've been playing Fuzzy Felt. Some reason why I decided to go to the Brilliant. So the Velvet Web.
We've got the Chintz Forest coming up as well.
Who knows? Who freaking knows? Okie dokie. So, DVD people on 3, iPlayer people on 5 with Tim. So,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
4, 5.
I love the sound of this opening sequence at this point. That you got this sound that goes with this distortion. It's just such a lovely touch. It could easily just be diddle-a-doo, diddle-a-doo, but there's all this shh.
It's the white noise in the background, isn't it? Here we are. The Velvet Web.
Such a touch. Yeah, it's not the jungle. It's the jungle out there for next week. Oh, figuratively.
So how did Barbara get there before the other 3? Because they all left. Oh no, she left first, didn't she?
Yeah,
she was at the other side of the air.
Yeah, and then she went off to do a jungle-y thing, I believe.
Yes. With
I don't remember where she actually is. Is she in this one or is it next? We shall find out. Oh, it's this one. Yes.
Yeah.
The one that introduces.
It is.
The daughter, I believe. And frankly, I think rather nice bit of eye candy. I think. I don't mean the daughter.
It's.
Yeah, you can laugh.
I was just going to say that Terry Nation is taking. There she is. She's all right after all. And she's got an arm
doing
brace,
your taxi look then
thing on.
Yeah, she's auditioning for her Aztec priestess.
Yeah, I was going to say is that I wonder if it's the same one she uses next story as your taxa. Yeah, I was going to say before that Terry Nation is it's almost like he's just taking some standard sort of, I don't know whether it's standard sci-fi or standard sort of story kind of ideas and just setting them in each of these episodes. But I may be doing him a disservice because it may be that a lot of these standard sort of story ideas are now standard to us, but weren't at the time. So I would say,
having read some older sci-fi, because I like the older sci-fi in particular, I would say that a lot of the general ideas, like later on with the brain on the eye stalk and all that nonsense, it's all been done probably in prose and short stories and magazines and all this stuff. Because, sci-fi has been around at this point for a good 60, 70 years. Sci-fi as we would understand it. But TV sci-fi, I think this would probably seem at the time quite fresh. Because obviously the medium is obviously the difference here. Because like we said recently, the only real contemporary type stuff they would have had is maybe the odd Quatermass thing, and possibly that's really it, really. It's Star Trek.
Yeah, that and A for Andromeda.
Time Tunnel's not
even. There's not been very much, yeah.
So, yeah, all the stuff that we know as, we usually imagine contemporary being, most of it doesn't exist yet. We're still a good 2 years ahead of most of this stuff that becomes quite tropey. So yeah, I think in this medium, a lot of this is probably quite fresh and new. And I always like these kind of scenes where you see the group just chilling out.
Yeah, Ian's very sceptical, isn't he? Immediately very sceptical, Ian. He's
I've been around
obviously
these last few weeks, yeah.
There's no such thing as a free meal type
Altos,
situation.
That's his name.
Altos.
No. But sometimes it depends who you're paying. Can soften the blow a bit.
Yes.
I mean, if he came in offering me the bill, then I'd be like, yeah, okay, then fair enough. Back then, obviously, because I imagine he looks a lot different these days if he's still around. He's a little bit effete, though, isn't he?
A lot of them are, I think. He's not wearing much, is he?
These stage actors all. No, he's not. That's a shame.
There's not much going on under his tassels.
Well, it does appear that way, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
But I'm not going to say any more on that one. That's probably best. Isn't this the one where it was revealed to be pure perception?
Yes, because all the fancy pants dress is just rags and stuff in the end, isn't it? So, and the food is nasty.
The food and the drink, I think, that's affecting them or something.
They Ian Stewart Black kind of takes this idea a little further. Sorry, go on. I was going to say Ian Stewart Black takes this idea a little further in Macroterra a few years down the line.
Yeah,
that whole thing about you being conditioned in your sleep and stuff.
In these videos. Yeah. The Macroterra, I can't wait to get that so we can actually reuse this wonderfully written by J&T line that Colin Baker did in the original audiobook of Jamie tossing restlessly throughout the night. I think they meant tossing and turning, J&T. I think that's the phrase you was looking for.
Yes. Forgot about the turning.
God, that line. That was taken out of the tossing, yeah. They took that, they forgot. I think they removed that line when they did it again with whoever did the audio for the CD version of it. Gosh.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, they reused Colin Baker's...
Anyway.
They reused some of Colin Baker's narration initially and then replaced it all with Annika Wills, so... He's still holding on to his Chinese robe, isn't he?
He is. He liked it. And to be fair, it looks good on him. It's a good look for him.
It does. Yes.
I wonder if we ever going to see William Russell in Doctor Who again.
Not now.
Yeah. I mean...
He's
been there once
he's nearly 100
so I wonder
now,
if they could
he?
find a good scene. Yeah, I know.
I'm not sure he's working anymore.
See, because I suppose what I'm wanting, right, and it's not even connected to this really. Ian would be ideal, but if not Ian, then maybe Vicky or Stephen, somebody who only ever knew him in that one body before all the Time Lord stuff was ever revealed. You know, kind of like in the Tales of the TARDIS thing, where in their head he's just this old man. They like when they see the $6 cost, she was like, the Doctor would never wear this, because they have no perception of the Doctor beyond Hartnell. And I think that
there's a bit of that in his,
would make for an interesting
his brief
story.
moment in Power of the Doctor. When he
says,
did
you say she? Yeah, did you say she? Yeah. But I think to actually have an old companion, like proper old from this era, come back, and Susan, it wouldn't work. Susan, it wouldn't work because she would obviously know about regeneration. It has to be a human companion from this era that would have no conception of it. Just because that's something to play. Because all the other ones, Sarah, Joe, Tegan, Tegan, Ace, they all knew about it. So it wasn't like a big shock to meet a regenerated Doctor. So there's a story beat that only certain characters can do. And I'd love to see that. But anyway. Keys of Marinus.
Interesting switcheroo that we've got. Because Ian originally was a skeptic, and now he's... because the little thing fell off Barbara's forehead when she was sleeping.
That's what it was.
She's now.
I can't remember what it was.
The one that can see the truth.
Go around.
Yeah, so she can see the truth, see everything for what it is, and Ian is now, absorbed
Speaking of Barbara, and this is looking at the future for a wee bit, her return in 1980, I think it was, as what's her face in Meglos. Nice to see her back. I was watching the Jess person I mentioned before, who does a reaction to Classic Who for the first time ever. And when, of course, Jacqueline Hill turns, she's like, oh, it's Barbara! Oh my God! Because she had no idea at all. And I'm like, yeah, I knew you'd think that. And I'm watching it thinking, once they cast her, I was thinking there's so many ways in that story of Meglos they could have revealed it to actually have been Barbara. That somehow she was catapulted off and she had to embrace this new position, like she does with the Aztecs, Or there should have been a line like what Jessica said, where when the Doctor first meets this character, or whatever her name is, I can't remember her name now. He's like, "Oh, you look familiar."
I can't remember her name either.
They should have just, they should have just thrown that in, just like, even if it's not in the script, just throw it in. Oh, you look familiar, because the fans would have been like, "Aha, lovely." And it would have fed into everything that went after with the whole idea that there's this temporal duplicity, multiplicity, or whatever it's called. I forget whatever it is they say. But anyway, Jacqueline Hill, she's amazing. That's my point.
She is. I'm just watching the camera work here while they
they got alternate between the perceptions.
While they talk to Barbara. And they set it up in the previous, set it up earlier. So presumably, so that at some point she can move into another set that is dressed shabbily.
Yeah. The camera angle here is very clearly she's on one set or one side of the studio or whatever. They're on the other side. Cameras both like that because they're absolutely not in the same shot. It's clever.
It is.
And an effective way for 1960s TV to do it. I mean, nowadays, obviously they'll all be in the same shot and it'll be CG and all this stuff. But that's interesting. That somewhere in between, Barbara or Jacqueline must have crossed studio to get in that position without being seen. It's just so wonderfully done.
It is. Considering...
Again, it's that whole thing what I said earlier about... Yes, that thing I said earlier about when they've got this amazing idea, Doctor Who writers, producers, where they're like, can we do this? Let's see if we can find a way. Let's not be held back by our limitations.
They're not... we keep... Richard Martin or whatever keeps going on in interviews how they were only allowed like one cut per episode, but that looked like there was a section from another set with which had to have been recorded separately because the actors were certainly Altos was wearing different clothes and there was no time for him to have changed in between. So and he didn't look pre-filmed.
So maybe that was
unless I got that bit wrong and that was pre-filmed and telescene it in at the time to match the other set. But God, my nose is blocking up now.
I think it's. I mean, it's. You got affected by me. Hold on.
Yeah.
See, internet's useful. This effect.
Belgium.
I mean, it's obviously just a model. Obviously, it's a model, but it's such a grotesque idea, isn't it? This idea that somehow these brains evolved and eye stalks are just coming out of the brain. I don't know how they're hearing, but they can see. But it's just such a...
They're not that dissimilar to what Cusick had designed for the Daleks, for the Dalek creatures. So it's possible, I suppose, that he just adapted his Dalek creature design to the brains of Morpheus.
Is he the designer on this one? Pardon me?
Raymond P. Cusick. Yeah,
do we know
did all the sci-fi ones early on, and Barry Newbury did the historicals.
Okay, cool. In that case, yeah, you just thought, good idea, let's do it again. Or
Spaced Out Blonde.
it's just almost the first instance of Terry Nation just repeating ideas.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, certainly, if you look at it from Ray Cusick's perspective, it's if he's designed something for one show that wasn't used, and there's something similar comes up next time, it saves him time, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So,
and knowing Terry, based on what
doors,
we know of his way.
Was that a door or that? So that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hexagonal.
Like a foul side, doesn't it?
It's like a thal, thal cloak.
Yeah, yeah.
We're not doing Ray Cusick any favours here, are we?
Sorry, Ray. But you only have so much time and money.
No.
And why not? Why not?
Brilliant. Wonderful. Just showing an roughly empty room with a mug.
It's great stage stuff too when you think, because obviously these actors are presumably used to working on stage at this point in their lives. That's primarily what they would have done, I imagine. So that's what they're doing, isn't it? It's like, we're in an empty room. This thing here, this is a goblet. Okay, cool. Let's go with it.
Yeah.
That's basically what they're doing. Same as these two here. They're just acting out, or at least she is acting out this idea that she's seeing this amazing, It's so well done.
Yes, I forgot that in this episode they effectively recruit these two, don't they? Altos and the girl,
so they can even split up more now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because these two are now here till the end, I believe.
Come on, love. I'll be 10.
You know what? I think, no, that's impossible. Chop my hand. Oh, no, that's Star Wars. My bad.
They've all got wonderfully 60s hair, haven't they?
What, the guys in the glass?
The ladies. Not the guys in the glass.
Oh, yes, that's very typical 60s.
One thing that's going to make
brain on display. It's an every thing.
One thing that's going to make the brains of Morphoton even more scary is to put a syrup on them.
Blonde wig. Brilliant. That's your problem. See, nowadays that line would have been, that's a you problem, not me.
They're very well spoken, these brains, aren't they? I half expect them to be reading.
Well, when you're a brain in a jar, of course you have to be. I think when you're a brain in a jar, manners are important.
Manners matter.
What else you got?
Exactly.
Right?
So, yes, you've got to use what you've got.
And they know
that.
that.
If that's manners, then fine.
Yeah. If all I have is a voice, then I will make sure it counts. Altos. Come on now. And I was rooting for you earlier. In the manner speaking.
Go on, Barbara. Knee him in the groin. Oh, Barbara.
It's a beater, that's it. What is that? Lexa? Is it Lexa?
What?
The one that Jacqueline O'Neill played in Meglos.
Yeah, you might be right there.
That sort of sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I should have just called her your taxer just for larks. I thought He's still got his robe on. I do like that robe, to be fair. I want one. I imagine it's not very warm, but it looks nice. I've got a friend in China who's coming back home tomorrow. See if he can pick me one up. I'll ask him now. Can you get me a lovely Chinese robe? There we go. See? Literally just asked if he can get me a Chinese robe.
Chinese robe.
He's in China, so he's back tomorrow. He's back tomorrow. See, I thought, you know what? Let's get an authentic one while he's there. Oops, I've gone blurry because of the phone.
Yeah. You get to see them from the front for the first time. That's good. So the brains outgrew the bodies.
They are.
They seem to have outgrown and grown out of the bodies as well. Go on, Barbara. Go for it, girl.
He literally did hit one glass and all that.
Oh, she did. You see, I don't remember her actually hitting any of the glasses. I was surprised that she got one of them. That presumably was the one they said, right, that's the one you can hit. That's the sugar glass one.
Not the actual. I don't feel she's meant to hit all of them, though, because the puppets inside do this whole thing. But one take, what can you do? That young man Altos, you can bring him anytime.
No, Sabitha. Repellent brain things.
Split up and make 6 episodes. It's quite fun watching this reversed. I'm watching this on screen in front of me, even though it's literally behind me. I'm watching the reflected image of it. It's quite weird seeing Hartnell's hair sort of lean a bit the wrong side. So if I make a comment when we get the tire saying, hang on, St. John Ambulance is on the wrong door, it's actually not. It's just I'm looking at the TV through the screen.
Yeah.
Trying to scratch my eye, then the glasses and the hat got in the way.
So Hartnell's off for a week or 2 off, isn't he?
Are they?
5 days. Yeah. They're going to meet in 5 days. So it's another week to add to our timeline.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Another week. So I'm guessing we're a month now. Now it's a screaming web. Sorry, jungle. See, I can add a Callan Ford.
I'm a few seconds behind because my iPlayer had a glitch partway through that episode.
That's what happened. I wonder what happened. Because I started talking about something, I noticed from the sound that you weren't quite there yet.
Yeah.
Ba-ba-da-bum, ba-ba-da-bum, ba-ba-da-bum. Raymond P. Cusick.
Heron Carvick was the voice of Morpho. Norman Kay, he did the incidental music for the first story as well, I think.
I think you're right. Well, dear viewers,
yes,
that was episode 2,
it was.
The Velvet Web, not Jungle, or episode 22 in total. Tim, any quick thoughts before we move on to episode 3?
Hang on.
Those were Tim's thoughts.
Another good solid episode. I think it's I'm enjoying the different location, different week set up so far. It's what's the word? I was thinking this last night, watching some old Universal horror. Watching is it Son of Dracula? It was an awful, dreadful film, dreadful film. But it's all.
It's not very good, is it?
What is it? There's not a huge amount of there's not a huge amount of clever storytelling or world building or anything behind it. It's incident. It's all there kind of for you in your face. It's spectacle. That's it. It's spectacle over substance. But actually, it works for a 25-minute family viewing adventure series on a Saturday tea time.
I think so.
So that's fine. If you're producing an 80-minute horror film, potentially, I don't think that's such a good idea, because I think I think you could have made it an awful lot better. But certainly for this, spectacle over substance, I think works. And we obviously we're kind of aware of some of the tricks, production tricks and stuff. You notice that Barbara only smashes one of the glass jars and that kind of thing. So obviously, wasn't able to break the others, or whatever. So little things like that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's all good. It's all good fun. It's engaging, keeping you interested. It's coming up with, like we sort of said during the episode, it's coming up with sort of interesting storytelling techniques, interesting ideas that probably are now quite considered probably a little bit more like standard sort of concepts for this kind of thing. So a society where you're brainwashed into thinking that all is wonderful, whereas in fact it's anything but. And just there could be at the time, potentially you could have read some political meaning into that as well. I don't know that Terry Nation's work was ever intended to be overtly political or what, but it's it's kind of, it's one of those things that's there if you want to pick up on it. I don't think it's integral to the actual storytelling at all. But so it's all good stuff so far. It's all good stuff, dear.
All good stuff, mate. It's all good stuff. Well, for me, again, I really like this. I'm engaged with this one, although granted we are talking over it. Although we did have a few moments of not actually talking over it this time, which obviously meant we got a bit engaged in it. I like this. I like the story. I like the idea behind it. I like this episode in particular. I think, I know now it's a very done idea. The idea of, as you said, suppressing your mind, the perception, and all that kind of stuff. It's all very done. I mean, even the brain in the jar thing, it's a pretty sci-fi tropey thing now. Yeah. But at the time on TV, certainly, I think.
The Matrix is essentially that, isn't it? The waking, the situation in which you live, in which you believe you live, is actually not the correct situation if you'd only wake up.
Yeah. And later in Doctor Who land, much later in Doctor Who land, they're kind of going to return to the whole brain in the jar kind of thing with what's it called? Something Show. In those two Peter Capaldi stories that Moffat did, the two Christmas specials, where they had those brains with just eyes inside the brains. I forget now. They end up in these bodysuits of humans. They take the brain out and they put their own in, and when they take the brains out, they just got eyes in the actual brain. It's in Doctor Mysterio, and it's also in the River Song one.
That's a real song, is it? I haven't watched either of those for ages, so I've obviously forgotten about that.
If you look, I thought you said like, oh yeah. But so again, no new ideas. But no, I think it works really well here. I like visually, it looks really interesting, and again, for 1964, it looks amazing. On a very small budget. Again, Kuzik. Yes, okay, we have said that he's repeating design ideas already. But hey, you've got a good visual design. Why not use it again?
I've not. Those are only things that occurred to me as we were watching this time. I was, and all the other times I've watched it, I've never thought of that before. It's only because potentially watching it maybe this time with a slightly more inquisitive eye. I'm not sure. I don't know, really.
For interesting things to say and whatever now, aren't we? So
we want to keep our viewer interested, don't we?
Yeah, keep you interested. I think really good. So, shall we crack on with episode 23, which is The Screaming Jungle, first transmitted on 25th April 1964. Okay, so all three DVD users and iPlayer people, you go with Tim. So, 1, 2, 3,
4, 5.
You sound quite in sync, actually.
I think we are this time. I'm watching what's going on your screen and what's going on mine.
Well, hopefully iPlayer won't glitch for you this time.
Let's say.
Or wherever you are. You might be in a coffee shop, who knows?
Screaming Jungle.
Yes.
That's Terry Nation.
Zooms the wind. Oh, you're behind me now. Sure. Bloody technology.
So this was not replayed in from the previous episode. That was reenacted, wasn't it, for the beginning of this one?
So that the others could get involved. Oh, another week of Altos. How lovely. Sorry.
Behave yourself, you.
No chance of that.
This is where they split up again, isn't it?
Yes. This don't they find that thing, the face in the rock or door or something with a knocker?
Yeah, and the hands and stuff.
Yeah.
But don't some of them go straight off onto the next one and leave? Is it Ian? Is it Ian and Altos they leave behind, or Ian?
Possibly, because the next one is the Snow of Terror or whatever it's called, the Tale of Snows, or I don't know.
Oh yeah, that one's that's there's a lot of There's a lot of sexual aggression in the next one, isn't there?
Oh, that's the one with Barbara on her own, basically, isn't it? Yeah, that's one. Yeah,
I think
that
yeah.
that's neat. Possibly a trigger warning when we get to it next time, because it does get even from even for today, it's pretty dark what's going on there. But we're not there yet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
We're still screaming in the jungle at this point.
We are. There's a lot of screaming going on, which is good because it's because of what he's wearing. He's in that cafe mode. I screamed and screamed and screamed and screamed. In fairness, Scarro was definitely not dense, was it?
No, definitely not.
Ash.
Ooh,
Creeping vines.
Ooh, creepy creepers.
Ooh, that tickles. Stop it.
We're not talking very much again, are we? Because it's really interesting. It's really good.
It's good.
It is. Oh,
You know,
take that, you creeper. Yeah, she's getting hysterical, but in fairness to Susan, with good reason.
yeah. Earlier, not quite related, kind of. It's Doctor Who related, so it's kind of. I was rearranging stuff because I've been off a week and I've got bored now, so I start rearranging the shelves and stuff just for something to do, really. Because with my knee, I can't go walking too far for too long, so I've got to find things interesting me indoors. And I was looking, obviously, at the Doctor Who stuff, and like, oh, can't wait till we get to this and this and this. And I'm like, oh, that's so far away. And then I said, yeah, seriously. And I said, are we going to be doing, for instance, more than 30 years in the TARDIS and an adventure in time and space?
Don't know.
The latter of the two, that one at least is interesting. Also, are we going to do, because I think that'd be quite fun, we could squeeze them into maybe 2 videos or something, some of the DVD mini episode type things they do, the Blu-ray rather ones.
Right, okay.
They could be quite fun.
Yeah.
And maybe at the same time, Tales of the TARDIS.
Could do.
We'll have to find cut versions of them without the. Yeah, I mean it's a while off yet, obviously.
While. Oh, here's the statue with the hands. Careful, Barbara, you're going to get hugged.
Would you like a hug?
Oh, isn't that why she goes on? Because she gets trapped, and they tell her to go on.
Possibly. Ian, it's hugging my legs. Good God, what sort of hug is that?
Oh, careful, you're going to get your hand trapped in there, you noodle.
No, we're blind, Ian. It's fun how, there's 2 things I always notice, certainly when we watch classic Who or TV from this era. A, they're all still very used to acting on stage, clearly, because they're all quite expressive and often loud vocally, because they haven't quite worked out how much is picked up on camera. You can see that evolving. But also, dialogue-wise, there's still a lot of radio with pictures going on.
Mm-hmm.
Where the dialogue's often, "Oh, it's the spring. Did you see it turn?" Yes, we all saw it turn. That kind of stuff.
I quite like the theatricality. It's one of the things that appeals to me about old TV generally. I'm less enamoured with with modern TV that kind of has the pretense to like a fly on the wall kind of real life thing. It's an art, it's a performance art form. So I don't see any point in trying to pretend that it's anything other than it is. But within reason. But yeah, you're right. The dialogue, even though it's showing, is still very much tell.
Yeah.
Tell as well as show, and yeah, the performances on the whole are great, but they have that slightly theatrical stiltedness about them. So some more so than others.
So it's actually Susan they get rid of for this episode, not Barbara. Off screen. Oh. So Ian, Susan, and Altos.
So they've gone on to the next one, I think, in the hope that Barbara will travel on as well. So, and I think when Barbara gets there, she finds that they've gone, or they've been.
Because Barbara's not gone anywhere yet, is she?
She's just
They've
somewhere within that wall. Yeah. Oh, so yeah.
Yeah, because they just discovered that the key they thought they found was a fake, so now they've got to find the real one. Yeah. And rescue Barbara while he's at it. So I'm assuming it's just Ian and Barbara the next episode then?
No, if the next episode's the Snows one,
it's definitely Barbara.
Barbara goes on and finds that
involved in it?
Altos and something had happened to Altos, I think, possibly Susan, or maybe Susan and what's her name had gone on to another one. They all, it's a mess from now on. They're all split up. They all go on to different episodes,
isn't it? Good for a classic.
I'll see you in episode 5. Yeah, just
good for a classic who is, even though we've seen it all before. It's usually been a while. It's usually been a while since, so we're like, "Oh, what is that?" I forget. We got a general sense of it, but I just can't quite remember the details sometimes.
I'm suspicious of that guy with the rake or the hoe or whatever. Oh,
an axe.
Oh, an axe. Gardener with an axe. Just like when you're watching a Ray Harryhausen film, you always have to be suspicious of any statue.
Be alive at any time.
It comes to life. Half an hour?
Not 23 minutes. Oh, interestingly, Lily, the last episode, by the by, was 25 minutes, 37 seconds. It was one of the longest episodes so far.
It's a longer one, yes. Interesting. Throwing in that thing about the key being fake. So yeah, just another nice idea thrown in there just to add an extra, extra layer. Terry Nation certainly knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Not an extra layer of danger, I suppose, incentive.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense because if you want to move a story along, you need to give and take, give and take, give and take, give him a reason to keep going, give reason to keep going.
So suddenly he's taking it, having apparently given it, he's taking it away from the characters again. They're apparently good situation is suddenly back to square one again, and
Yep.
there's only two of them to get to the bottom of it. So I know we're going to get some creepy creepers again, aren't we? Never turn your back on the foliage.
Or statues.
I was going to say, I'm sure there's some old gardener in there somewhere. There's a lot of distressed robes.
This one got like, I don't know, I seem to remember, it might be this one, where they have like spikes or something that are quite clearly very fake.
Very rubber wobbly, yeah.
See, no pretense that we've not seen this before. We've obviously seen this before.
Yes, they're being lowered onto
Barbara,
Ian, I think, at some point.
Or is it going to be Barbara?
Oh no, it is this one.
Good Lord, yes. I can't quite. Is the camera moving or is she? Not she. I mean, the what's it?
I would imagine the camera.
Yeah, the camera's like up or
Oh
down.
no!
Must move that way. Oh crap! Ian, you really should keep this top. It looks really good on you.
Yeah.
Get a lot.
Here come the sponge spikes.
And the really bendy.
Yeah, I think on the previous shot the camera was moving towards them, but they are obviously being lowered.
Yeah.
There.
They go in. Too much. Too little. Oh, sorry, which way? Whoop.
Oh,
Just kidding. Come on. 23 weeks, no holiday for you yet.
Here he is, Cat Weasel.
Yeah.
I can't talk to you like this. That's a great line.
Well, I know his name. But I just fucking told you. What's your problem? Fool. Thanks, I'll have that. Bye. Bye-bye.
Oh, for God's sake.
Well, apparently not, because the others have gone on without her, so clearly there's some room for movement.
Go on, Ian, put your back into it.
Go on, it's bending, there you go. Hop.
Oh dear.
Well, that happened off screen, didn't it?
Well,
hang on a minute. Fucking that's a bitch to get off, apparently. Hello.
Oh, Lord.
Stage. It's death, I tell you. Death.
He'll have been telling his actor chums in the pub about his performance
amazing role last night. Absolutely fantastic it was. Yes. It was
stole the scene, I stole the scene.
It was my scene. I may have been the guest, but I assure you I was the star of that bit.
No, you obviously didn't tell Arbitan that because he didn't pass the message on.
This is what happens, see? No.
Come on, you've only been throttled by some creepers.
You say microkey, but it's like this big. I don't know what micro means. Again.
Oh dear. Oh, he
He's
died.
going for it, isn't he?
He really was.
Like, I don't have many seeds to make them count.
The DE302. It's the time it took him to say DE302, presumably he could have said, "Oh, it's in a jar. It's in a jar marked
Yeah, it's in that jar over
DE302."
there. But
Flipping it.
why would I tell you when I can just be cryptic, right?
Yeah, well, exactly.
The face of Bo learned from that as well.
Oh, it's it was a safe. I thought it was in a. I thought it was in a
I
jar
think it's
of
a jar
chemicals.
too. Because what safes have letters and numbers on them? Well, I didn't see any numbers on that safe. Not numbers, letters, sorry. Yeah. Must be something else then. So why did you go for it then, Barbara? Barbara?
Come on, because the plants will be breaking in soon.
Yeah.
Definitely said whispering, not rambling.
Yes. Nothing rambling about that whisper. Over there. Like,
Bit harsh criticism that. Well,
yes, I'm a history teacher. What do I care about
original.
science? It's not very original. That's why she prefers history. It's much more original than science, apparently. All right, keep your bloody wig on.
Here it comes.
It is all so different to what came before in the first 13 block, isn't it? It's just relaxed almost. All right.
The one of the things I did like about Marco Polo was the soundscape in the Singing Sands episode.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of reminded me of that was really good.
Well, apparently, Barbara, you can literally see it. You see? Oh, Ian! That's coming up, I can tell you now. That's quite the screen.
Yeah, she does that very well.
That was her. I just encountered a Dalek scream.
Yeah. Yes.
Stupid old man. Why didn't you just say that in the first place? Honestly.
I'm glad, because I was starting to think I was going mad. I could have sworn it was.
What is a jar? Found the bloody thing. Oh, that was a good cut.
That's a good cut, yeah.
Ah, the snows of terror.
Yes, you should have learned that from when you were up on the
Himalayas.
mountain, the roof of the world.
Yes, the roof of the world.
So, the snows of terror. Next time, 2 weeks' time.
Terror.
Sabbath. I must remember that. Martin Court was the Edmund Warwick was the old boy.
Ooh, Edmund
Warwick was he
Well,
didn't
Cat
he?
Weasel was close then.
Well, yeah, because he doubled for
Yeah.
he doubled for William Hartnell, didn't he? And,
So the Cat Weasel thing is quite a good call because, of course, Jeffrey Belden was almost the first Doctor.
and Martin Court, who Martin Court. Oh, he was a Void in episode 1. And he is in isn't he in? He's in the Seeds of Death, Paget Troughton story. I think he might be in the Censorites as well. I can't remember, but yeah, he certainly he crops up now and again.
Okay,
Right.
That, dear viewer, was episode 3 or episode 23.
Yes,
The Screaming Jungle. Tim,
Screaming Jungle.
what do you think?
Yes, not the Velvet Jungle
Not the Velvet Jungle.
or the Chintz Forest.
Nope, none of that. And no Emerald Cities either. So, Tim, what did you think?
I'm still enjoying the story, and I'm admiring actually the way the little tricks that Terry Nation's playing, just to kind of keep it going and make sure that it's not too formulaic, and because it would have been very easy, I think, for this to slip quickly into a format. So each episode effectively just becomes a repeat of the previous one, just in a new location. So it's good that it's not doing that. I do think, even though I'm enjoying it and I like what I watch, I do think this is the first episode where there's evidence that the story is potentially pushing the boundaries of what can be achieved a little bit too much. So there's obviously some it's budget limitation, essentially, at the end of the day, and it's I'm happy to ignore that when I'm watching it, but you have to acknowledge that these things are there, because there's otherwise it seems that you just kind of blinkered to the whole thing. So you've got that wonderful moment with the spikes coming down, wobbling, because they're obviously just like sponge or foam rubber or something. And there's only so much that they could do with that. Obviously they couldn't use actual blades, because if there was an accident in the studio, so Jacqueline Hill suddenly suddenly been knifed.
Okay.
So, but it's I suppose really it's just how you kind of work around that. And you Edmund Warwick giving his King Lear as the old gardener, but in that in that little shed of his, you could see as the creepers were breaking in, the kind of the slats of the wall slats of the shed were clearly just very like thin, um, uh, sort of hardboard or balsa wood or whatever. So just
Softboard.
so
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it, and I'm liking what I'm watching. I'm aware that this was, and I think this is probably the one that always does it for me, where it's pushing what can be achieved a little bit too much for what's available. And I'm assuming from a design perspective, at least, this story must have been an absolute nightmare because there's so little that can be reused. I mean, some of the sets from episode 1 are reused in episode 6, I think, to the end of episode 6.
Yeah.
And I think doesn't 4 and 5 take place, or is it 5 and part of 6 take place at the same location as well? But other than that,
I
up to
believe
then,
so.
it's
Yeah.
new location each week. So there's very little there's very little opportunity for them to save money by using the same sets week after week, and it's the money only goes so far. But it was good. It's a slight drop for me from the previous 2 episodes. But I think if memory serves, this is the one that I always thought was a slightly weaker entry. But
Yeah, I can see that.
But that's me being particularly picky. I think it's fun, and it's still doing new and creative stuff.
Yeah, agreed. For me, I'm enjoying it. I think I like it. I like the individual, setups for each episode. They're pretty basic. Scenarios are pretty straightforward. The risk factor is, I think it's usually conceptually more interesting than what actually it turns out to be. Again, budget limitations. What can you do? But I think that's fine because, like you say, I mean, it's good to acknowledge it, but at the same time, it all comes to, can you suspend your disbelief while you're watching it? Yes, you get caught up in the fun of it and acknowledge, it's 1964. It's for what they're doing. It's pretty good. For the fact that each week they've got to design new stuff, again, it's pretty damn good. And almost certainly a lot of the setting, dressing on the sets rather, is almost certainly just lots of stock stuff they've got in the stores wherever. Nothing. There's very little fresh design stuff he's probably got to do really. It's just getting lots of stuff together to make it look full. But no, I think it's good. I like that Terry Nation shows that he's quite adept at adding more jeopardy along the way, more pitfalls just to keep moving it, to give them more things to try and overcome as they get the key. Like, the key's fake. There's no reason it needed to be fake, other than I need something to move this story on for the next 20 minutes before we move to the next setting. And it worked, because ultimately you have to acknowledge, certainly in this era of Doctor Who, and for most of the 60s, definitely, it was more about, we need to fill 25 minutes. It was a case of, there's a 6-part story, let's really develop it. It's more a case of, right, we need to keep people entertained for 25 minutes before we move to the next one.
Yes. What can we achieve? What can we film? To fill 25 minutes.
That's basically their primary goal. It's not like TV nowadays. It's it was literally, we need to keep going, and it works. I think it works. It's as I said already, the fact that we're at new locations each week actually works in its benefit. But I think that's entirely because we can see it.
Yeah.
Because the fact that obviously Marco Polo was a problem for me suggests that it's got to be a visual thing. I hope.
And it's also worth remembering as well. I think we're often guilty of this now. We're watching it on a large screen, either on DVD or on iPlayer or whatever. Generally in a kind of a pristine, pristine
sure.
condition, cleaned up and stuff. People years ago, 60 years ago, would have been watching it on a very small, screen in the corner of the room. 4 or 5 lines, and the definition wouldn't have been great.
Sort of, and there might be some interference in the transmission.
Yeah, so
there's a lot of stuff
that we notice as we rewatch it that probably wouldn't have been evident, or certainly not as evident, on its original broadcast. So
yes, of course,
you can afford to be forgiving, and if anyone turns around and goes, "Oh, this episode's crap," because you can see the blades wobbling, it's like, well, then you're watching it for the wrong thing. You're not engaging with.
And of course,
you should be fully engaged with the episode before that happens, so that it might pull you out slightly, but there should still be enough of an engagement there to carry you through that and beyond. Even to good old theatrical Edmund Warwick, and just so it's what it is, what your own personal, I suppose, what your own personal like viewing agenda is, really.
Yeah, and I think you need to be mindful and be honest in your viewing, in that you have to be aware that these shows back then, not like TV today, where it's made to be rewatched again and again and again, because people almost certainly end up owning these things on some way or another.
Yes.
Or it's on streaming, so it's always there to rewatch. Back then, all they were doing is making something to fill the slot for 25 minutes with not even a thought that you'll see it again on even a repeat, frankly. It didn't even occur to them, because that just wasn't a thing back then. Absolutely not a thing. So you have to be honest in your viewing. You have to view it. Yeah, obviously, it's hard not to not view it with today's mindset, for the younger generation, certainly. But you have to be honest and say, look, you have to have context in your viewing of it. View it the way it was meant to be.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're being dishonest, and I think you're going to be finding, as you said, you find faults that weren't there. I mean, they were, but you can weren't there for the viewer at the time.
You can also admire the ingenuity as well. I mean, the statue with the arms coming out. I mean, you could look at that and go, "Oh my God, it's clearly someone stood behind it, holding their arms out." But yes, it is. But it's what the narrative calls for, and how else are you going to achieve it?
How do we do this?
On the budget. Obviously, you're going to have something with some holes through, and someone with their arms painted the same color as the statue coming out, and it's just how they could achieve those practical effects at the time essentially in a live studio environment, largely as if it was a piece of theatre. So
absolutely, it works. I mean, I think it works anyway. So okay. So I think we've covered this one quite well.
Yeah, I think we've had a lot of fun.
We return. I think we have actually. It's been
a lot of fun with Altos and Sabitha and Arbithan and the Voord.
Oh, indeed. Sinister thought.
You dirty ticket.
An ancient man now. Time travel, if only, eh? So next week we return to Deep Space Nine. For part 2 of the Marquee.
Indeed.
Obviously, there's no point in saying, Tim, what do you think it's going to be about? Because obviously, after part 1, I think you've got a general idea.
It's going to be about the continuation of part 1. Yeah, exactly. So, cool. Well, I look forward to that.
Yes, it is. Yes,
Yeah.
Yes, that's going to be a fun one. It's going to be fun. And I'll return to Keys of Marinus in 2 weeks. All things being equal, with the final 3 episodes of this particular story before moving to more historical drama. But anyway, as usual, people, all social medias will be linked below on YouTube, not so much on Patreon, but this will be available a week longer on Patreon than it will be on YouTube, and we'll make sure you know all this when we post it all out later today or maybe tomorrow. Until then, until next week, I have been Andy.
And I've been Tim.
He has been Tim.
I have.
Until then, bye-bye, Duggan.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.